A truly incredible sandbox game is one that allows you the freedom to explore unique and interesting environments, craft weapons, armor, and items, battle a variety of different enemies, tackle insane boss fights, and build jaw-dropping castles and mansions, all by yourself or with a group of your closest friends. And no game does this better than Terraria. Got you with that Minecraft bit, didn't I? Ha! Suckers. In all seriousness though, Minecraft really paved the way for games like Terraria to exist, but man does Terraria just have so much more going for it. Minecraft is by far best played with mods, as it really lacks a lot of content in just the vanilla version. While Terraria is chock full of content now, it wasn't always that way. The year is 2011. Andrew Spink started off the year starting the independent gaming studio Relogic. Just 4 months later in May, Terraria had its initial launch on Windows, but it wasn't done yet. It received multiple updates over the next year, with its final bug patch coming in February of 2012. Ha, yeah right. Development resumed in 2013, and the game would receive multiple updates every year ever since. Simultaneously, while updating the PC version of the game, they also released it on other platforms. All of them. Terraria was released on Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, 3DS, Wii U, Nintendo Switch, Android, iOS, Windows Mobile, Linux, and Macintosh. So odds are you have some kind of device that can play Terraria. It's also not a super intensive game, so any mediocre laptop should be able to run it perfectly fine. While Terraria remained Relogic's focus, they did make two other titles. In 2015, they released Pixel Piracy, a 2D pirate simulator that was met with a not-so-stellar response. They kept the Pixel franchise going and released Pixel Privateers in 2017, a squad-based tactical RPG loot 'em up. It received better reviews, but ultimately neither game really kicked off in the same way that Terraria did. At E3 2019, Relogic announced that Terraria would be getting one final update with Journey's End, an update with a substantial amount of new content. On May 16, 2020, Terraria players loaded up the game to take on its final update and to bring their Terraria journeys to an end. Well, not really. A lot of people still play this game and likely will far beyond this update. Relogic left us with the message, "It's your turn now," as they released Tmod Loader, a free software to more easily enable modders to keep updating the game with new and exciting content, keeping it relevant far beyond Journey's End. Terraria reached 200 copies sold in the first 9 days following its release, where it remained on Steam's top sellers during the first week of sales. Within a month, Terraria had sold over 432,000 copies. By April 2020, that number had increased to 30.3 million, with 14 million being sold on PC, 7.6 million being sold on console, and 8.7 million being sold on mobile platforms. I also feel confident in saying that most big Terraria fans own it on more than one console. I personally own it on PC, and also on PlayStation Vita for some reason. I first got Terraria in 2012 or 2013. I can't say for sure, my earliest remaining world is from 2013, but I did play a game with friends before that, so I'm not fully sure on when I got it. I think I got it in 2012, but whatever, who cares? Point is, I was playing Terraria back in its infant days. When I first tackled it with friends, the final boss was Skeletron Prime. Yeah. That might not mean anything to you, but I'll explain it in a bit. But first, I should probably explain how Terraria works. As you can probably tell by looking at the gameplay, Terraria is a 2D sandbox game in a similar vein to Minecraft. Players start by creating their custom character, choosing whichever character difficulty they want. Hardcore makes your character have permadeath, so you're dead, you're dead. Medium core is more like traditional Minecraft. Players drop all of their held items on death. Items dropped in lava will be lost forever. Softcore or classic is considered the easiest option. Players drop some of their coins on death, but no real loss. It is my preferred way to play. It doesn't really make the game any easier, but it does mean that you won't have to backtrack to find all your lost inventory without your good weapons or armor. It's just a little more convenient. Finally, there's Journey mode, which I'll talk about later. Now it's time to create a world. Worlds can be small, medium, or large, and all have their own difficulty. You can set the world to normal for your standard game experience, still decently challenging, but nothing groundbreaking. Then there are expert and master modes, each with increased difficulty and special items that can only be unlocked by beating certain bosses within these modes. Master mode items are not available in expert mode, but master mode has access to everything in the game, including expert exclusive items. Finally, worlds also have an evil biome, which can either be corruption or crimson. They act as counterparts to each other, but have different enemies, a different boss, and different unlockable items. Want a Crimson exclusive item but you have a Corruption world? Just make a new world and travel to it with your character. There's no limit to how many worlds your character can enter. Now that you have your world made, it's time to play. All you start off with is some crappy copper gear, so I suggest you start looking for something better. Sweep the chests on the surface for better weapons and accessories, then mine for improved armor. There are a wide variety of weapons available in this game, and they even fall into different classes. Melee encompasses weapons like swords, flails, yo-yos, spears, and boomerangs. The Ranger class focuses on bows, guns, and launchers, while the Mage class uses spell tomes, scepters, and magical guns. Finally, the Summoner class is able to summon creatures to attack alongside you using summoner weapons and accessories. Accessories have all kinds of capabilities, from increasing damage for certain classes, to allowing the holder to breathe underwater, resist damage and knockback, or to turn into a werewolf or mer person.
I bet I know what it was. I'm guessing it was a mermaid.
There are so many different accessories that I truly can't go over them all, but they are essential to a good character build. Weapons and accessories can also be modified. These modifiers add bonus damage, attack speed, and other stats to weapons, while increasing your overall defense, mana, walking speed, etc. when added to your equipped accessories. Having the right modifiers can have a huge effect on the potential of your items. Looking for better gear? Well, once you unlock the Goblin Tinkerer and purchase the Tinkerer's Table from him, you can combine different accessories to make new and improved ones. This is very helpful, so make sure to look up what accessories you have and what they can combine with. The Goblin Tinkerer is also capable of re-rolling your modifiers in hopes of getting something better. This can be pricey, so better have some deep pockets. I do want to give a special shout out to all the little references in this game. Want to play a Sora from Kingdom Hearts? Use the Keyblade. Here, have Pikachu follow you around. Why not? There's even a full-on Dungeon Defenders crossover event that can be played at any point by talking to the Tavern Keep. While researching other crossovers that I might not have realized while playing the game, I did find out that the yo-yos in the game are based on a real brand called One Drop Yo-Yos. Not only are the game's yo-yos based on the real-life brand, but it turns out that One Drop has also made real-life yo-yos based on weapons in the game.
Did I just say Yogos?
Has also made real-life Yogos. Both the Terrarian and the Kraken can be purchased in real life in varying colors. I've never wanted a yo-yo so bad in my life as I do the green Terrarian, just like in the game. I had to grind for hours to get that yo-yo in the game due to some poor RNG, so it kinda has a special place in my heart. If not a little bit of a frustrating, dark place. Took a long time. Terraria is broken up into two sections, pre-hard mode and, of course, hard mode. Let's go over pre-hard mode first. Pre-hard mode is where you'll do all of your initial exploring. You'll likely fight the Eye of Cthulhu pretty early on. After that, you'll probably take on the Eater of Worlds or the Brain of Cthulhu, depending on what your evil biome is. You can find the Queen Bee in the jungle, and Skeletron can be summoned by traveling to the dungeon at night. The dungeon is filled with awesome loot, but you'll have to be well equipped to take that on. The only boss you really need to fight to progress in the game is the Wall of Flesh, who can be summoned by sacrificing your guide. Just throw his voodoo doll into the pits of hell found at the bottom of your world and prepare to fight. Beating the Wall of Flesh kicks off hard mode, so be prepared beforehand. Initiating hard mode allows you to spawn new types of ore into your world. It also releases a lot of new and tough enemies, so I suggest finding that ore for new armor as soon as possible. Along with hard mode comes the Hollow, a new biome that will spawn in a streak going through your world. An additional streak through your world's evil biome, Crimson or Corruption, will also spawn. Each of these biomes can be spread into your other regions, so it's important to stop the spread as much as possible or your other biomes can be overtaken. I won't get into the details about how to stop the spread. If you want to look up any details on anything that I mentioned here, feel free. There's a lot of great resources on YouTube to get you started in Terraria. The first step in progressing in hard mode is to beat the Mechanical Trio. While they can be fought in any order, I believe most people fight the Destroyer first, who is a harder version of the Eater of Worlds. Next they fight the Twins, a harder version of the Eye of Cthulhu, and finally Skeletron Prime. You guessed it, a harder version of Skeletron. As I mentioned earlier, Skeletron Prime used to be the final boss in the game, and beating all the mechanical trio gave you hallowed bars, which lets you craft the best armor in the game. But with later updates and more being added later on, that is no longer true. First, after beating the mechanical bosses, you can take on Plantera by destroying the newly spawned bulbs found in the jungle. The temple is small, but it holds the next boss, Golem. Beating Golem enables you to initiate the true end of the game. First, you have to kill the lunatic cultist by killing his followers hanging outside the dungeon. Defeating him will start the Lunar Event. The Lunar Event spawns 4 towers all across your world, each with their own unique enemy types. Defeat enough enemies to get the towers to drop their guard, giving you the opportunity to take the towers down. Defeating all 4 will spawn the true final boss, the Moon Lord. The Moon Lord is a fun and challenging enemy and makes for a great final boss. He also has the potential to drop all of the endgame loot as well as Lumite, the ore needed to craft all of the best armor in the game. That's it. After you beat the Moon Lord, you have beaten Terraria. Congratulations, you're all done. Unless you don't want to be. There are a lot of optional bosses that can be spawned to fight, each with their own unique item drops. There are also several events that you can take on. The Frost Legion is a Christmas exclusive event that I do not have footage for. It's July, sue me. Surprisingly, the Pumpkin Moon isn't a Halloween exclusive event and can be spawned at any time of the year. Same goes for the Frost Moon, a winter counterpart to the Pumpkin Moon. At any time, your world can be invaded by pirates, a solar eclipse, or a blood moon. You can also spawn a Martian invasion or take on the Dungeon Defenders crossover event. Every event has unique enemies and bosses with unique and interesting item drops. I definitely recommend taking them all on as you play through the game. Leaving all of this content for the post-game isn't near to as satisfying. You will already have endgame weapons and gear, so you'll easily defeat them all, losing the satisfaction of an even fight. Plus, all the gear you'll get is now obsolete in comparison to what you have from fighting the Moon Lord, whereas it can really help you out in fighting the earlier bosses if you get it earlier. Terraria is about more than just combat though. It is a great building game for the creative types. People have made some insane creations. I'm not super good with the building aspect. I have made some decent things in past playthroughs, but in my last major playthrough I did not focus on that at all. What I did focus on though was achievements. Achievements add a lovely challenge without making them stupidly hard to get. When I completed the game, I had little trouble with the majority of the achievements aside from a few RNG based ones. Like I mentioned earlier, I had terrible luck unlocking the Terrarian, which is an achievement. I fought the Moon Lord about 30 times until he dropped it, and it's an 11% drop rate, which isn't bad, so I just had very bad luck. There are no achievements for playing on certain difficulties either, so don't worry about needing to take on Expert or Master Mode if you don't want to. The only other achievements I had to grind out was the fishing achievements. You have to complete 200 quests for the angler. This can be super time consuming as you can only complete 1 quest per day, but there are a few ways to speed that up, so I suggest looking into some videos if you're trying to grind this achievement out. I did save, I don't know, 185 of my quests until after I beat everything else, so don't do that. I suggest every now and then just getting 5 to 10 of them done as you play through the game, and it will feel like so much less of a pain in the ass. Leaving all 200 quests for after you've done everything fun in the game is a bit more of a drag. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the NPCs. There are a lot of them to unlock and they all offer different things to help you out. Journey's End even uses them to create a fast travel system using the pylons. They can only be used in specific biomes and need to have at least 2 NPCs next to them. Before this update, a lot of players would build one large structure for every NPC to live in, but with the new fast travel system, it encourages you to build multiple bases, even if they are just simple ones. I mentioned Journey Mode earlier, but now I'll go over it in detail. Journey Mode is similar to Minecraft's Creative Mode, but in its own unique way. Yes, you are able to spawn items in, but you need to research them first. The research requirements vary from item to item, but some will need you to gather 20 or more of that specific item to research it. After that, you can spawn in as many as you like using the duplication feature. It is an interesting take and a switch up from Terraria's traditional mode. Along with the duplication of items, it also enables modification of time and weather and difficulty sliders. Journey characters can only be played in Journey Worlds, and Journey Worlds can only be entered by Journey characters. Makes sense. This wouldn't be a complete Terraria video if I didn't address the elephant in the room. Terraria Otherworld. Andrew Spinks announced in 2013 that they would be working on a sequel to Terraria. It would later officially be announced in 2015 as Terraria Otherworld, a sort of spin-off set in an alternate Terraria universe. The game was being worked on by Relogic and Engine Software at the time. The game was meant to be a more strategic RPG than a sandbox game like the original title, setting players off with the task of healing a corrupted world. We didn't hear much about Otherworld for a few years. That is until 2017 when Relogic announced that Engine Softwares would no longer be working on the game and would be replaced by Pipeworks Studios. However, development struggles seem to have continued into 2018, as Andrew Spinks would later announce in the Terraria forums that while they have made progress on the game, they were way behind where they needed to be and were not willing to rush or release a poorly made game, so the decision was made to cancel Terraria Otherworld once and for all. To accompany the release of Journey's End, they did release the Terraria Otherworld soundtrack for players to purchase on Steam and to be accessed in-game by speaking to the NPC Party Girl. As the soundtrack had already been finished at that point, they wanted to release it for fans to enjoy. We didn't get the game, but at least we got the music. The way that Relogic has cared for Terraria over the past 9 years should really set an example for other development studios on how to care about your game and your community. They gave countless free updates to what was originally a $10 game on Steam. Terraria had hundreds of hours of content from the start, and with every single update they added more and more, bringing players back for another playthrough. So much content that they honestly did not need to add. They even took into consideration what the community wanted to see and implemented that as often as they could. While I appreciate the free updates, I truly believe that Terraria fans would have bought any DLC they released. But they didn't do that. They released all this content for free for 9 years. Thank you, Relogic, for creating such an incredible game and for caring for it and its community for almost a decade. This may be the end of Relogic's journey with Terraria, but I do look forward to seeing what they make next. Until next time, check out another video of mine if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching.